I want to tell you how excited I am about the fact that we have always had a good and long-standing relationship with the National Arts Education Association and the National Association of Elementary School Principals. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Dennis Inhulsen, who's the Chief Learning Officer with the National Arts Education Association.
Well, see if I can do this. Thanks very much, Jane. So I have a background in art education and as an elementary principal, so this is an especially great honor to make this introduction. But before we do that, I need to find a little bit of a comfort zone and to share just a few things, just a few minutes. Like, for example, did you know that the Mackinac Bridge in Michigan is 553 feet tall? And you're thinking, okay, some of you have been there. So just last Sunday, at the end of a 5-day bicycle ride, I rode over that bridge. They allow us to ride on that bridge 2 hours per year. And so we entered the bridge, and when we're going to the top, me and 1,500 other riders, by the way. So we're getting to the top of this bridge, which is pretty high. And I'm with my friends, and we're having a good time, going around about 14 miles an hour, feeling really good at the end of almost 400 miles. And I started singing. Now, I don't have much of a voice, but I'll try this. I love the Mackinac Bridge, it's a mighty fine bridge, it's a mighty, and like that, and I'll spare you the rest. So as an elementary principal, our fourth graders in Michigan at the time, all 90 of them, experienced Michigan history in that manner, right? So our music educator in our building and our art educator in our building would get together and put together a production on Michigan history, standing room only, every year. My school had about 63% free and reduced, not extreme rural or urban poverty, but enough to be school-wide Title I. My school had 17% of our students had IEPs. And you know, during that whole period of time, there were virtually no behavior problems other than high anxieties, students being nervous, and they were just amazing. And those teachers could include every one of those 90 kids. And those parents understood in their own way the value of that experience, that arts experience. They didn't use arts language or education. Right along on my bike, singing to my friends, and I'm sorry about that part, I started going off in new directions up there on that bridge. And I started thinking about our fifth graders in Reader's Theater, learning how to read with expression and voice. And I started thinking about how our math kids were building mathematical models, and I started thinking about kindergarten. Now, my palms are already getting sweaty with kindergarten, and I had 100 of them in the building. Early forests and kindergartens, not to mention Head Start programs. But I was a lucky guy as a principal, so I would visit every classroom every day if I was in the building. That was my mantra, every classroom, every day, in the morning. And I'd walk into kindergarten rooms, and those of you who know kindergartners get this, and they were doing motor movements. They didn't call it dance, but they were doing motor movements. So if you're into it, I'd like you to join me for a minute and wake up a little bit. So I'm going to step over here. It'll only take a minute, and then we'll move on. Ready? Stand up. I have a big voice. Here we go. This is how we walk. And this is how we talk.
This is how we talk.
Ready? And this is how we roll.
This is how we roll.
And this is how we rock.
And this is how we rock.
And this is how we stop.
And this is how we stop.
And this is how we stroll.
And this is how we stroll.
Thank you. So with our working class community of beautiful children and families, our parents knew in the depths of their heart, even though they didn't use arts language, how important it was for them, for their children, to have a whole child, well-rounded experience. And so with that, with great teachers, all teachers, we didn't have a need to make a case for arts education, but we did have to spend a lot of time with our stakeholders explaining to them exactly what learning looks like in the arts classrooms. We spent quite a lot of time with that and with our legislators in that area, and I'm very proud of that. Well, our speaker this morning knows this firsthand. Not only is he a musician, a former music educator, an association executive, but he's also the leader of leaders for our nation's elementary principals. And with that, I'd like him to tell his story, and thank you a lot for being here this morning and allowing me to share mine. Dr. Franks?
Thank you, Dennis, for your introductory comments, and I look forward to working with you in my new role at NAESP. Good afternoon, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here to speak with you during the closing lunch session. You should know that this is an inaugural speaking event, or my first as NAESP's Executive Director. Thank you. I'm honored to be here and to now serve at the national level, as Dennis noted, after 9 years as an executive director of a state association, the Council for Leaders in Alabama Schools class, Alabama's leading umbrella organization representing principals and school district administrators. While I spent almost a decade working at a state-level association, I spent the majority of my career working in a public school system from top to bottom across all grades, and notably as a principal for 9 years in a pre-K-12 school serving over 1,100 students. I think this experience is important to bring to NAESP as we work to achieve our mission, which is to lead in the advocacy and support for elementary and middle level principals and other education leaders in their commitment to all children. As a former teacher, principal, and state leader, I take this mission very seriously. To me, it means that pre-K-8 principals must have the knowledge, tools, and resources to be successful and meet their responsibility to provide every child with, as Dennis said, a well-rounded, complete, and world-class educational experience. Before discussing the challenges and opportunities that are inherent with this mission and my goals, I would like to share a brief story about a young boy who, in 1973, began the school year as a student at Matt Wilson's 7th grade school in South Georgia. You see, at this time, 7th grade was the first year that band and arts education program was offered in this boy's school. This was particularly exciting as the young boy's childhood best friend, who lived across the street from him, was a year older and played the trumpet, which he greatly admired. So much that the young boy even learned how to play several songs on his friend's trumpet. From there on, he knew that he definitely wanted to be in his own school's band, and of course, play the trumpet. When the day finally came for this young boy in the 7th grade for instrument testing, his teacher suggested that he play the trombone, but the boy lobbied for trumpet, and he succeeded. And so began the young boy's lifelong love affair with instrumental music. In fact, it was during this time that he decided to become an arts education teacher. Why? Because he thought his music teacher had the greatest job in the world. He got to teach his favorite subject and play instruments and get paid for it. Now that's a career worth working for. So the young boy continued to play the trumpet. He became a featured soloist in the 7th grade band, the junior high school band, the high school marching band, as well as a high school symphonic band. This time during the young boy's life was a dream come true. Later, he went on to be elected band president during his senior year and recipient of the prestigious John Philip Sousa Award in recognition of being the most outstanding musician in the band. Eventually, as a young man, he followed in his beloved music teacher's footsteps to become a music teacher. In fact, he enrolled in the same university that his teacher attended in Alabama. After graduating from college, the boy went on to fulfill his lifelong dream of being an arts education teacher, teaching instrumental music to students in grades 5 through 12. After teaching for 13 years, he became a school principal to increase opportunities for students to be successful and fulfill their own dream. By now, you've probably guessed that I'm the young boy featured in this story. While I have experience as a teacher, principal, and association executive, I also bring a profound understanding of the importance of the arts in learning. When I found through the arts fell nothing short of creativity, collaboration, critical thinking, and communication skills that we all know are needed to be successful. But it is unfortunate that not every child in every school, even nowadays, has the opportunity to experience the arts as I did. In my role at NAESP, it is my goal to ensure that every principal not only understands the importance of the arts, but has the ability to, as a school leader, optimize the conditions for teaching and learning in their school and use the arts and arts integration as a key strategy for school and student success. While I know that access to the arts and education is of critical importance, successful programs are not only made possible through effective teaching and leadership. There's no question that my music teachers had a strong school principal working behind them that helped make my dream as a young boy a reality. Also, I would be remiss not to mention that effective school leadership is second only to teaching when considering the school-based factors that improve student outcomes, and strong school leadership has the greatest impact in schools with the most needs. Principals have long supported arts integration across core subject areas in any pre-K-8 curriculum. For example, since the inception of NAESP's platform statement, which is a collection of resolutions or belief statements that are updated annually and adopted by the association, the arts have played a prominent role in many key resolutions. In fact, in 2016, Arts and Education was pulled out to be a standalone resolution to articulate several key values that underscore a well-rounded, complete education must include a focus on arts integration across a pre-K-8 curriculum. This resolution was adopted by the entire association's membership without question. To me, this signifies that principals know the arts have the ability to reach greater levels of learning or deeper learning, which is an umbrella term for the skills and knowledge that students must have to succeed in 21st century jobs and civic life. At the core of the premise on deeper learning, students must master competencies in order to develop a keen understanding of academic content and apply their knowledge to problems in the classroom and on the job. We know that this is what every parent wants for their child and what every principal and teacher must be responsible for providing access to an educational experience that leads to deeper learning. Further, and while this should go without saying, we know that music, dance, media, theater, as well as the visual arts, whether integrated across a curriculum or included in after-school and summer learning programs, are the strategies that will lead to deeper learning for each and every child. While a strong belief in this principle, as well as empirical evidence, make this very easy to say, we all know it can be much harder for principals to understand, embrace, and act on it, especially if they do not know how to adjust their leadership appropriately, especially in schools or a district where a strong arts focus simply does not exist. In many schools, principals are working in conditions or a system that does not support an arts integration perspective, provide the resources for sufficient exposure or programmatic means, offer professional development for principals to establish a school culture that is conducive to arts integration, and in some cases, even in a school system that is dismissive of arts-related strategies in the face of accountability pressures. While supporting principals directly to understand that there is a better way and how the arts and education can play a role in a school's continuous improvement, we must do better about helping principals understand how to do the important work of arts integration in their schools and across the learning communities. I believe this requires all education stakeholders, including all of us here today, to work together to address both practice and policy. Influencing policy is necessary to provide the structure and support to ensure that a well-rounded and complete education agenda is at the forefront of all discussions on education, particularly at the local level and for schools. This is the only way that we can begin to make arts education and integration of the arts stick, as they say, or where the arts are a valued educational experience and a reality for every student. To this end, I'm cautiously optimistic about the pivotal moment we are currently in as states and districts develop plans to implement the Every Student Succeeds Act, ESSA, which provides an unprecedented opportunity to include the arts as strategy to improve student outcomes. While certainly not a means to the end of all of an education system or schools' challenges related to the arts or otherwise, ESSA is an important lever for dialogue and action to expand the opportunity for a well-rounded and complete education in many communities. The law certainly refocuses to being a more student-centered, which I believe significantly deteriorated under the No Child Left Behind Act. With the narrowing of the curriculum that schools encountered for so long, we must now help schools with expanding their curriculum to provide well-rounded and complete learning experiences. For many schools, the narrow curricular tunnel and associated practices, quite frankly, are the only place they have known. This is why earlier this year, NAESP released a theory of action for principals around ESSA, or to show them how the law can help them provide a well-rounded and complete education for all students, consistent with their unwavering commitment to student academic success. We ask that every principal seek to understand the theory of action and make it the centerpiece of their stakeholder engagement efforts around policy and programs with states and districts. This action calls for arts integration as a fundamental or necessary component of every state and district plan concerning implementation of the new law. It also provides principals with research around these key areas and programs, as well as a blueprint for action. Take, for example, the ability that districts have under ESSA to set district-wide goals that would give principals individually and collectively greater autonomy to integrate the arts in their schools. Working together, state and district plans can intentionally align and provide professional learning and build capacity around arts integration and resources to make curricular and instructional shifts. This is the opportunity of ESSA and the action that is needed to make the vision of a well-rounded and complete education for every student a reality. But it will only happen if system leaders, principals, and other school leaders, parents, and partners in the community, such as all of you, work together. I hope that in partnership with all of you in this room, we can continue to put forward these types of efforts in support of principals in our nation's schools. Elevate the discussion surrounding the arts and arts integration, because we believe that ongoing access to service and support in the arts is a matter of equity. As I begin my new role at NAESP, I commit to you that we will reinforce the need for all schools to focus on the arts and the positive influence on school climate as a way to increase student and teacher engagement and as a way to give every student a voice in their learning. Where this does not exist, NAESP will encourage principals to advocate and influence their peers and system decision makers. All of this requires new and different ways to think about bringing resources to bear. So on a final note, I ask for your partnership with NAESP as we continue this important work. I would also like to finish my remarks with an additional personal note. I am so thankful for the many opportunities I've had, all made possible because of education. And the influences of being in an arts education program. And certainly what I learned from my influential teachers. In addition to teaching the art of music, they also taught me and my classmates those soft skills that have been noted, but worth mentioning again: work ethic, teamwork, collaboration, communication, decision-making, and problem solving, all of which we know are vital to be successful in the workplace. I could never have taken on my new role without having learned these indispensable skills. And finally, I will share that after becoming executive director at NAESP, my 7th grade music teacher, who was also my high school music teacher, posted on my Facebook page, "Congratulations, Earl. I'm so very proud of you." And several weeks ago, my junior high music teacher sent me a tweet. "Earl, you have always been a source of pride for me." I ask myself, what if? What if I had not had the opportunity to participate in an arts education program? What would have happened to me? I'm not sure. What I am sure of, though, is I wouldn't be where I am today had it not been for my experiences from being in an arts education program. So going forward, it is my hope that I will be able to help provide each and every child with the same opportunity that I had with arts education. I look forward to working with all of you in partnership as we work to fulfill our mission to advocate and support principles to the benefit of all children. Thank you for the opportunity to be with you today, and I look forward to answering your questions. Thank you very much.
Well, I have a big mouth, so I won't use the mic until it gets here. So first of all, Dr. Franks, thanks for being here and making this your first outing to speak as the new executive director. We really appreciate you making that commitment to us. You made me think about, I had obviously many teachers in junior high, but you know, as you were talking about your teacher, I remember that the only one I remember is Mr. Troy, my band teacher in junior high. So thank you for that. It reminded me how much influence Mr. Troy had on me through my trajectory as well. My question of you, I'm very interested, I know others are, on this idea that principals need professional development. Mm-hmm. Do you have any suggestions to us? Many of us are involved in projects back in our home places that we want to get those principals involved. How do we get them interested to get to those PD opportunities as part of the teams with their teachers so that it's a total effort on the part of the school?
Doug, thanks very much for the question. Often principals put most of their funds for professional development for their teachers. And Title II funds are so very important for professional development back in our states. And so that's why NAESP and our other education partners, we're very supportive. And we know the Senate hopefully took some action yesterday of including Title II funds, which had been stripped out in the House. Those are typically earmarked for professional development, and so funding is critical for there. You know, we talk with those on the Hill and our state leaders. How do you expect principals to be better in their job if we don't provide them with professional learning experiences? So it's a very, very good point. And we would hope that you would help us, again, to advocate for those Title II funds to be included back for our states.
Don't be shy, he's not your principal.
Everyone's thinking about their junior high music teacher, probably.
Well, I would like to take that question about PD a little further back up the ladder there to think about principal initial training to get your certification in principal. And from what I know from several states, it's a really jam-packed curriculum. Are there levers to get training around arts into some of that initial training before you even become a principal?
I would say it is possible. I'm new at the national level, and I just came on board, and I know that our organization works with others in terms of CAPE and what those programs look like in the state. And so my plan is to have this conversation with these groups that are involved in these principal preparation programs in all the states. If it's not included, what can we do to get it included, because it's very important. At this time, I don't have enough knowledge about really what CAPE is doing. Again, I know that our organization, along with our secondary partners and others, we look at those programs and review the programs for CAPE, but hopefully I will get a little better understanding. But my promise to you is I will advocate that arts, have the knowledge about the importance of arts, should be included in those programs, absolutely.
I'm Katie Wyatt with El Sistema USA, and I was very inspired by your words about the importance of the arts and equity and access for all kids. One of the challenges our programs face is Title I funds tend to be the biggest public funding opportunity for El Sistema inspired after-school programs, and they're often competing with remediation courses or tutoring programs for students who have fallen behind in testing. And I would love your thoughts on how we can further support after-school arts education as a potential alternative avenue to improving test scores as opposed to remediation classes.
That goes to my point about the accountability piece. Teaching education is more than a single test score. And for too long, we put so much emphasis, and in fairness to those doing the work, the teachers and the leaders, when our state legislatures are mandating and our state boards of education are mandating this accountability based on a single test score, how did little Johnny do on the test? Then it forces those schools and those teachers to implement these remediation programs. And so in fairness to them, we need to work with our states and our policymakers. Education is more than a test. It's for a well-rounded, we know parents want a well-rounded education. That includes more than just taking a test. And now we know that these soft skills, which the workplace, they're advocating for, many of the soft skills, you can't necessarily test soft skills. So I think that needs to be a conversation that all of you can help us with, work with our state legislatures, our state board, our local boards of education, again, to demand a well-rounded education should include arts integration, physical education, all these other programs. It shouldn't be, how did a student do on a single test? That's not fair.
I feel we're talking into the mic right in front of you, but my name's Debbie from Vero Beach, Florida with the Learning Alliance, and I love how actually Google's been calling them power skills instead of soft skills, so I just want to throw that in the room. But my question is, we all know how powerful it is to come together and learn and grow, right, with each other. So for the principals, what are some of the ways that you already have or are thinking about creating that community at the national level for innovative principals to connect with each other and learn from each other and advocate on each other's behalf?
Well, I know from an NAESP's perspective, we talked about this this resource that we've rolled out to our principals, and certainly revolving around ESSA, how that they can be a part of that conversation, our action plan. But we have many other resources that are available. I don't know if I can announce it now. We hope we will partner with our friends at AEP, and they have this tremendous document that came out several years. Okay, we're going to roll this out. And I guess I can defer to Jane on this, but they actually came out with this publication, 4 or 5 years ago? And it's practical ways for principals how they can start having these conversations in their local communities, in their schools, how they can implement arts in their school. And they're very practical, and we hope to, anyway, we're going to get that out. So I didn't know if I could announce that yet or not. So yes, we're going to try to help move the needle on that. Thank you all very much.